Welcome to my next video on steps and ethics in ethnographic research. This is a very important video for the students of MA education, MEd and PhD, and the topic is also very important as we will be knowing and learning about what are the different steps which you have to follow when you are conducting an ethnographic research. In the previous video of mine, we have already discussed about what is ethnographic research and how to go about it, what are the different tools which can be used in ethnographic research, and today we are going to discuss what are the different steps which we use or which we conduct in ethnographic research. Steps in ethnographic research. The first important step is you have to identify the intent and the type of the design, and you have to relate it to your research, right? So we had discussed what are the different types of ethnographic research, and in that we had discussed about the realist, we had discussed about the case study and the critical. So in the realist one, the type of intent and type of design is the problem which is there, which you are going to take, it relates to a culture sharing group and how it works. In case study, the problem relates to developing an in-depth understanding of a case or the bounded system, and in critical, the problem relates to a need to address inequities in our society or schools. So if you are taking anything which is related to a culture sharing group, then it will be under the realist. If you are doing an in-depth study of a particular case, then it is case study, and if you are doing something which is related to the need to address inequities in our society or in schools, then it is critical type of ethnography. Now in the realist one, the problem requires a detailed description of the daily life of the people. In the case study, the problem, it relates to understanding an event, activity, process, or one or more individuals, and here the problem calls for action and advocacy. That means when you are doing a critical research where you feel that this is a need of the society, this is a need of the school, then that particular problem has to call for an action and advocacy. And in case study, it has to be related to understanding of the event, activity, process of one or more individuals. Now in the realist ones, we have to see whether the problem relates to understanding a cultural theme. Here we have to, in case study, we have to identify the type of case, whether it is an intrinsic case, instrumental, or a collective one. And in critical, we have to identify the critical issue that you wish to explore. So the first step over here is we are going to identify, and we are also going to identify that what type of design is our research related to out of these designs which we have discussed now. Then we have to discuss how to plan to receive approval and gain access to study sites and participants. This is a very important part in ethnography. We have to actually decide that how you are going to get access to your population, to your participants. The reason is because in ethnographic you are doing an in-depth study of a particular group, of a particular culture, of a particular institution, of a critical issue. So for that, you have to first see whether you are going to get access to your study site and the participants. So in realistic, you have to receive the approval from the institutional review board. You have to locate a research site using purposeful sampling procedures. You have to identify a gatekeeper who will give you access, and you have to guarantee provisions for respecting the site. That means you have to guarantee that I am going to respect whatever site and whatever access I have got to this particular research or to this particular participants. In case study also, you have to receive the approval from the institutional review board. You have to locate a research site using purposive sampling procedures. Of course, the procedure of sampling followed will be purposive only because we are dealing it as per our purpose of the study. We are taking the participants because your study demands it. So you have to identify how many cases you plan to study, and as per that you have to see that whether you are getting the access to that, and you have to guarantee that you are respecting the site. In critical also, you have to get approval from the institutional review board, you have to locate a research site, you have to identify a gatekeeper, and you have to guarantee the provisions for respecting the site. So in all the three you have to do the same. Once you have got the permission, then you have to collect the appropriate data, emphasizing the time and field, multiple sources of information and collaboration. So in the realist one, you are going to spend extensive time at the site and with the culture sharing group. That means you are going to be a part of that particular group. You just can't go over there, take your data and just be out of that. You have to be, you yourself have to be attached with that particular group, and you have to go on spending a lot of time with them. You have to enter the site slowly and build a report, because no one of you is going to allow you permission or is going to give you information if you are new to them. So slowly and steadily you need to build a rapport with them, you need to develop a comfort zone with them. So that is all what you have to do, and you have to plan to reciprocate for data provided, and you have to emphasize observations and record field notes. So this is a very important thing. You have to do the observations of whatever you are seeing, you have to write it, you have to record the field notes as well. And even in the case study, you have to collect the extensive data using multiple forms of data collection, because that case study may be a single case, maybe an institution. So collecting the information from just one observation is not going to suffice, is not going to help you. So you have to collect the data by observation, interviews, documents, audiovisual materials. You have to use all these things to collect the data, and this also brings about the validity in your research, because it also leads to data triangulation. So all these things are very important when you are doing an ethnographic study. Critical ethnography, you have to collaborate with the participants by actively involving them in the data collection, and again here also you have to collect multiple forms of the data that individuals are willing to provide to you. Okay. Then you have to analyze and interpret your data within a design. So now you have to analyze and interpret the data. So once you have got all the observations, you have written the interviews, you have taken the recordings, everything, you have to read through the data to develop an overall understanding towards it. You have to develop a critical or a detailed description of the cultural setting to establish a context for the group being studied. Once you have established the context, you have to develop themes about the culture sharing group, and then you have to make interpretations of what you are studying. And in case study also, you have to read through the data over and over again, understand it, you have to describe the case in detail, you have to again establish the context for it, you have to develop issues or themes about it, and if more than one case is studied, consider a within case analysis followed by cross case analysis also. Means if you are studying more than one case, then you can go in for this particular technique also. Critical ethnography, in critical ethnography also the same thing. You have to read through the data, you have to understand it, you have to explain a detailed description, you have to develop or establish a context of the group that is being studied, develop themes which are related, and then you have to identify changes that need to occur and advocate for specific changes and advance a plan for a change. That means in critical ethnography, when you are doing such kind of a thing, you actually have to come out with a plan to solve this kind of a critical issue related to a school or related to a society. Then once you have done with the analysis part, once you have established a context, you have developed certain themes, and then you have come to your interpretation, you have to next write your report of the research consistent with your design. So in realist ethnography, the report, it is an objective study. As the researcher remains in the background in the written report. Here when you are writing the report, you have to keep out your biases, you have to identify your exploration of the cultural theme advances knowledge. In case study, the report is based primarily on the description of the case or way description, analysis and interpretation differently or equally. You have to choose to be objective or subjective, you have to include your biases somewhere, you have to generalize it to the other cases. And in critical one, you have to report it as a call to action or address the critical issue that you are studying. You have to include a specific plan of action for change based on your findings, and you have to discuss how you as well as those who studied changed it. Okay, So this is how you are going to write your report inconsistent with your design. Now once you have done this particular steps, there are certain ethics which is to be followed in the research. And ethics in ethnography probe a question, that is, what are the moral and ethical implications of conducting the fieldwork. See, these challenges of fieldwork, they involve negotiating how to get access to the people and sites being studied, how long to stay in the field, whether to tape natural talk or talk that we collect through interviews, and how to interact with the participants respectively. This is very, very important when you are doing ethnographic study, because you are taking the information as they are saying, you are recording it, so it is your duty to follow the ethics as well. Madison says that ethnographers should be open and transparent about the data gathering. This means that they need to convey to all the individuals involved in the study the process of study, the general impact it will likely to have, and the sources of support and funding for the project. That means you have to tell to your participants why you are doing the studies, what impact it is going to have, and what kind of a support and funding you have got from this project, for this project. Ethnographers need to study people and places with a respect towards causing them no harm. It is the duty of the ethnographer that you are causing no harm to the people whom you are studying, and you have to preserve their dignity also, and you have to ensure their privacy also. This is a very important part of ethics in ethnographic research. They also have a responsibility to the scholarly community. It entails not deceiving or misinterpreting participants or readers, or failing to report misconduct. Work in an ethnographic setting should be conducted respectfully so that other researchers might not be barred from entering the site in future. Yes, we have to keep this in mind, that we have to do the work respectfully. We have to do the work very nicely, because if we are creating any problems during the data collection or with the participants, then the other who are actually doing the research will not get permission or will not get entry into these sites. So it is very important for us to keep all these things in mind, and that is what is the ethics which we have to follow as researchers. Ethnographers need to give back and provide remuneration to those being studied also. So the remuneration which you are giving them may not be in the way of money, but something good you can give it to them, which will help them or which will provide some assistance to them. And they also need to be aware of the negative influences their presentations and publications may have on the population of the study, because you are studying them, because you are studying their issues, because you are studying their problems in detail. Maybe after you publish the paper, maybe after you have done the publicity, the presentation, it may affect their life somewhere. So we as researchers, as ethnographic researchers, also need to think about this aspect, that after our study, after it becomes public, it should not create any problems to these people whose study we are doing. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.